you can think of something evil, someone's already doing it. As an example, the ability to generate an earthquake. It is my understanding that the 2 earthquakes in 2011 were caused by the bringing on of the system of the ice cube neutrino detector. And it is my understanding that when they first brought it online, that they basically had 2 friendly fire misfires, and that's what hit Christchurch, New Zealand. I was there. A lot of folks contemporarily seem to have a lack of respect for people with direct first-hand experience. Everybody always says, if this was going on, somebody would have said something. Well, there are people saying stuff. Cook to work on a cat train that went across the ice, and he said the express purpose for him, I should say, for that team, working for RAYTHEON, was they were searching for missile site locations.
They find out it's really usable, not only to live in, but militarily.
The whole idea of this being demilitarized is a load of baloney.
But strangely enough, there's left in the world today an area as big as the United States that's never been seen by a human being. And that's beyond the pole on the other side of the South Pole from Middle America. And I think it's quite astonishing because the government has really become interested. I tell you one reason they're interested. It's by far the most valuable, important place left.
Having looked backwards, I question the proximity that I was to them. I may have been some sort of unknown asset, is my suspicion. The type of clients that I had are not the type of people that when they get a leak under their sink, they go to the yellow pages and check for the local plumber.
You know, fun facts and strange facts about Antarctica, okay? It's a desert, driest continent on the planet. Very few people live there, 140 permanent residents. It was discovered recently in 1820 by Russian expedition. No country owns it. It wasn't named until 1890s. Mostly ice, 90%. Holds most of the world's fresh water, 60 to 90%. It used to be as warm as Melbourne years ago, 40, 50 million years ago.
I don't have a fear of death because I don't think death is the end of anything.
All right, everybody, welcome back to Total Disclosure across all platforms, where we explore the mysteries of the unknown. From sightings to conspiracy theories, we dive deep into the unexplained occurrences in our skies and on the ground. If you're passionate about exploring the unknown and are intrigued by the possibility of extraterrestrial life, then you're probably in the right place. Don't forget to hit that like button, share with your friends, your family, the Grays. We don't discriminate, and click that notification button to stay up to date. If you want to go a little bit further, help the channel, you could support us by paying what you want, and all channel members get the same perks no matter what you pay, from 2 to 20, early access to recordings like the one you're about to see, as well as any other content. We're currently making a film right now, so a lot of behind the scenes content. If you're listening on Apple or Spotify, written reviews really help. They're free. You don't have to do much. You just write a review, what you think of the show, give it a star rating, and hit submit. It's really that easy. Today, we have former Navy and contractor of RAYTHEON, Eric Heckler, and he is going to tell us his experiences and his story, and how he became a whistleblower about the South Pole. Here is Mr. Eric. Thank you for joining me, by the way.
Thanks for having me.
It's been in the works for a while. I remember the first time I messaged you, you said, do your homework, get back to me. And then, I went and did that homework. I really, I appreciated that you said that, because I can only imagine coming out on a platform like, because Dr. Greer does draw attention, and he does draw the community's eyes, whether people want to believe it or not. So you came out on a big stage, and you didn't have a lot of time to speak. There was a lot of people, but how did you become involved in that process? I want to start there, but then go into your early life. So I do want to touch base on how that came to be.
I guess I'm going to try to gather, I guess I never really thought of it that way. Like, how did I get involved? Is the question like with the Greer event in DC? Is that what you're
Yeah.
asking?
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that would have been through John Warner the Fourth as a
Okay.
common friend. I would say that was probably how I got to know Greer. That would make sense.
Okay. And then, so it was after, you're here because, and what I think really is commendable about your story is that you're here for your crew, not just you. And you're here because they experiencing, or they were experiencing what I can only call Havana Syndrome. I mean, it with what Dr. Gary Nolan. I mean, I'm sure, you've been I'm sure you know who Dr. Gary Nolan is.
Yes,
He
the name
studied
rings
it.
a bell.
Yeah,
I don't
yeah,
want to pretend that I'm versed in his information, but I'm familiar with him and his work.
yeah. So he kind of studied the Havana Syndrome on the opposite side. So without having worked around it, he kind of studied what it did to people and the traits that these people had, what they had in common, what they didn't. And he did some great work. And there's clearly something to it. And I think he's lending credibility. I think that's what the community needs to do more of, is line these things up, because what you're talking about, it all makes sense, right? If I was hiding this kind of weapon system, or this kind of communication, or secret technology, I'd hide it exactly where they hid it, right? And I'd be doing tests exactly where they're doing them, and I would employ people just like you. And what I think happened is that people underestimated you because of your position, and you were able to breach some information and put the picture together. It happens all the time. I see it all the time with people underestimating people because of that hierarchy that they think exists, right? I'm a scientist. I'm a big shot. You're this guy. You have no idea what I'm talking about, so it doesn't really matter what I say to you. You're not going to understand it anyway. And that cognitive disassociation that they have towards the real world.
Yeah, it is what it is. It's not hard for folks to consider. If you have this big, giant, massive office building full of scientists, well, each of the scientists is allotted a couple of cubicles that they're supposed to have access to. So in general, each one of them is completely compartmentalized and cut off from the others. The people that are not would be the maintenance staff for that same building.
Absolutely.
It's like, it is that simple, that, the electrician in that building, the plumber in that building, the carpenter in that building would have a much bigger picture of what's really going on in that building.
Yep.
Than any of the individual scientists.
If you go to any building, I go to buildings I go to buildings that are highly secure on a daily basis. On a daily basis, I'm in places like Moderna, right? Places like just really, really, like the John Hancock building. Half the companies there. I live in, so I'm in the Boston area, and the maintenance staff, they are what the building doesn't run without them. And they are the ones, they know everything. They know the ins and the outs, They know people's comings and goings. They're there more often and they're more consistent. It's just how it is. And I think your story's really unique because of how you got there. So I want to start with your early life. You grew up in Long Island, but you grew up in a unique place, a very unique place. So I wanted to start with who you grew up around.
Anyone in particular? I mean, it was a
Well, so
melting
you
pot
grew up,
of
yeah,
life. I mean,
you grew
I
up in
grew
a
up.
college town. Let me get my words. So I'm sorry. The town was called. It was I just had it on the tip of my tongue. It's in here somewhere in my notes. But what is it? Tiddleton?
Oh
No.
no.
Where,
What'd you come up with?
what's a town that you grew up in? And it was
I,
it has associations with Project Paperclip, Operation Paperclip. There's a lot of
I grew up in
people.
a town called Levittown, which
Levittown. That's, I don't know
which
what the hell
was
I was just thinking. I completely lost it.
but yes,
I
it
looked,
was
yes,
very much involved with the World War II veterans coming home post World War II. And, in the greater Long Island area, there was a massive amount of Operation Paperclip activity going on. I mean, you name it, it was rampant. Bethpage, which was where Grumman was at the time, was a stone's throw away. You had
right.
companies like TRW, AIL, you know, pretty much all of the military industrial contractors had some presence on Long Island and were employing folk that would be involved with all of these programs. So again, it's like, now you expand it outwardly instead of all of the scientists being in proximity to each other by offices and office buildings. Well, they might be in different buildings from each other, but they're certainly in the same communities. They're just spreading everybody out and diversifying the load a bit broader spectrum. But for all practical purposes, everybody involved in the Long Island military industrial complex was just shuttling back and forth to work for their little rat wheel cog in the military industrial machine. They were, that's the industry here.
Right.
Whether
Well,
you
I
work
mean,
for Sperry Electric or, Grumman or.
yep, absolutely, absolutely. And I mean, growing up in that area, in such a concentrated area, like you said, everyone got their hands in that area. Did you ever see things? Did you ever experience things that started to open your mind and make you wonder, are we alone? Start asking those big questions, or was this something that happened after South Pole where you started getting intrigued?
It was something that was ongoing in my life. The facilities that I was coming across, I was starting to realize that things were not as they appeared. So,
Mhm.
as an example, on Long Island and the locale, the the country clubs, basically, where the rich people all congregate, are
Mhm.
former, like Nike nuclear missile sites. So they're fortified. Yeah, it's like this is just a part of history no one really discusses. So it's no longer a nuclear missile site for the defense of we the people. That got shut down. But now it's a country club.
What the
So if you're rich, then you happen to be a member of this elite facility that used to be able to take a nuclear missile strike. So I think that there's been different levels of society that have been in the know about certain things for longer than others, and that there's been a two-step going on for quite some time, where first those in the know rile up the riffraff, the general population, and get them to be scared of something now, so they get them to invest in the infrastructure that the
now?
wealthy will abscond by some other definition. Oh, now it's not a nuclear missile site anymore. Now it's our country club.
Right.
And the poor people can't be here and know about it. But yet here's this fortified facility that has its own power supply, its own water supply. It's
Able to withstand the
a
end of the
nuclear
world.
blast. Yeah.
Yeah.
Unbeknownst to everybody in the community that
Right.
thinks it's
Right.
just for, 18 holes and fun on sun on the weekend. Yeah, and the fees to be in these clubs are very exorbitant. Almost like you're maintaining a massive below grade city.
Yep. And it's always like that too. It's always always these. I mean, look what's happening now. I mean, it's You see these people's houses getting raided on the constant for their. It seems like once money and power is there, it's just the saying just rings true. Just with power and money comes absolute. Just I don't know. You turn into someone different, and money, power, and greed have turned this country turned it away from what it was meant to be into this. I don't even know. I mean, it's just a joke on a daily basis. You look at the news, the president, he looks like one of those shells in Mario. After he's done with his speech, he doesn't know where to go, so he just bobs back and forth until someone grabs his hand and wheels him down the aisle. And then the guy we got running against him is I don't know. It's this country's just it's gone so far. So Daniel Inouye spoke about a breakaway civilization, breakaway shadow government, and do you think that there is such thing? Are you
I
under
think the
the
speech that Senator Inouye gave is something that everybody should pay a lot of attention to, that there are these other factions that exist in the shadows behind the scenes. This was very much part of the conversation that I had when I did go and testify at the Senate Intelligence Committee and Arrow. This was part of what went down. Was there seems to be an awareness that there are factions that have gone rogue, that are no longer operating with any oversight, and that the pretense of secrecy being how we got here and protected these folks has been, I guess, taken advantage of. And it's become questionable that some of these factions are operating for what is best for everyone anymore. So, I mean, this is where we're at. This is the problem with the ways of the world, is that technology and secrecy at levels that we never thought would get entangled are currently occurring. And we really need to consider what that means, So, how far down the rabbit hole have we gone with what's possible starts with, I guess, answering first what's possible. What is possible, what could be going on around us, and then we'll have a debate about how far down we could have taken this technology and these tools and resources, to what depths of disrepair and dismay and debacle could they be being applied. Well, first we have to figure out what could be getting applied.
Right. And if we look around at all the testimony, I mean, from various whistleblowers, David Grush, yourself, even Michael Herrera, others. There was the lady that came out at the South Pole right before you did. I forget her name. Was it? She came out. Renee Nicole. I forget her last name. She didn't come out as a whistleblower, but she came out. She kind of lines up with your story, and you knew her personally, and she suffered from what they said was originally these, she had a stroke, but it, clearly looked more like Havana Syndrome, and she was trying to get herself evac'd while you were there, and you had worked with her. So I think, if you take all this testimony, right, there's clearly some faction in the government or faction of the government or the military industrial complex that has broken off and will do anything to keep this secret. And it doesn't just start with neutrino weapons or directed energy weapons, but it's a UAP, it's everything, it's all connected. And have you started making some of those connections?
Yeah, absolutely. And this, for me, has been going on for quite some time, and it amazes me that everybody else is just having a hard time following along, even because it seems that once trail is being broken here, it leads to the obvious. There's new information to most people coming out now, but where the conversation is going is that pretty much all microwave radar systems have the capacity to be used offensively, like an attacking ray. And we now need to reconsider all of our history that we've had these types of radar systems that we were trained to believe only had a passive capacity, like listening, like being an electronic ear is kind of the perception that we were trained to maintain for this type of technology. But now we have to retrain our brains to realize, no, there was more going on. These things aren't simply passively listening. They have an active ability to do something offensively in the frequency spectrum, in the directed energy weapons direction that we're just learning has been around for a lot longer than we've been told.
Yeah, I mean, look at the amount of patents that get seized every year that have to do with alternative energy or anything in the field of alternative propulsion or just that field. They slap a national security tag on it and a national security order on it, and it gets shelved. But it gets shelved from the public. The only way that project moves forward at that point is if you work with the military as the inventor, right? The only way that you'll be able to now utilize your invention is if you sell it to the military, because it's under national security order. So why is it such a stretch to think that the military industrial complex or some subset of it, some group, has this advanced technology and is not being forthcoming about it? It blows my mind that people can't put this all together. And we don't have to drag on about that. I want to get more into what has directly happened to you, but it really does. It blows my mind. I mean, it's very clear that something is happening in plain sight.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. If people just paid more attention to what's going on around them in the real world, not the virtual reality that they're trying to get everyone to focus on. You have to turn away from the screen, pay attention to the patterns of reality going on around you, and you'll get a massive education as to what the intentions of your enemies are, because they're apparent everywhere you look in reality. There are attacks on your ability to wield free will. I mean, it's just omnipresent if you're looking in the right direction.
Right. And these things, if what you're saying is true, then they could put anything in your mind at any moment and make you think anything at any moment, or any make you feel a certain, like that is the ultimate. You want to talk about privacy and phone tapping? I mean, this goes.
Everybody knows that they've already figured this out. Everybody knows that they're holding in their hand a device that interacts with them enough that device could start throwing out, but I mean, for lack of a more colloquial term, let's just call it personalized ads.
Yeah.
Or news, or properly edited and selected posts from your friends, coworkers, however you want to define it. Multiple bots could be created to start modifying your view of anything and everything through that device to get a desired outcome of how you will feel when a certain amount of attention is invested in, which this could absolutely be bought and paid for. They can put a number to a calculation. They absolutely can look at you and be like, what do we want him to be thinking in 1 week? And what would it cost us to make that happen? What programs do we have that we can sick on him to make this occur? And these studies have been ongoing. We're living in that world right now. Technology is already engaging with people to that extent that every time you look at your phone and some audible alarm makes you look at your phone, so there's a control mechanism there, you then look at the latest post and you have a physical reaction that your phone is now reading. It notices that your respiration rate changes. It notices that your circulation has modified. It can tell whether you liked something or didn't like something.
Right.
And then by having control of that information stream alone and everybody else's information streams, there's a massive amount of modification and manipulation to get any desired outcome with just simple investment.
Right, because once you can predict, right? So once you can predict someone's future, right, you can alter it. Because if you know their habits and their this and their that's and their dislikes, their likes, everything about them, how they're spending, how they spend their money, where they spend it, you can start now targeting certain aspects of that person's quality to get them to go a certain way. So then, yes, you're in full control at that point. And it's a fucking dangerous world, my friend. And if we got Tesla, we got Elon Musk out here already, with the trials for Neuralink. So we're one human away from being cyborgs already. And that scares the shit out of me.
People are going to be begging for it.
Yeah, they are.
Everybody that we're already pre-positioned for that to occur, and it will.
And then there will be no secrecy. But then I guess I ask, then if there is no I guess the people who control the program control everything. So the secrets stay secret for them, but not for everybody else. Everybody else's secrets are out on the table. But that's a whole thing in itself.
Therein lies the nature of the beast of the game.
Right.
That what you just said right there is pretty much the motive. And it's been happening time and time again through all of history. But as the technologies change, there's just new modalities. You can get the same outcome of the situation you just mentioned by being the church in antiquity and starting with the whole confessional booth situation. And you convince the population, oh, please come tell your sins to the priest. He won't share. This isn't run by the mafia. This isn't an intel. This isn't an intel gathering operation. This is divinity.
Yeah. Oh my god.
And leaves some money in the basket.
Yeah.
Not only does God need intel, he needs funding.
He needs a little bit of side money too. Yeah, please. And do 10 Hail Marys. Don't forget.
Absolutely.
We gotta get into heaven. Don't worry. So, all right. So in your early life, you said you did have some encounters you saw things, things that made you question it, and then you went to elementary school, and something else happened. Can you explain what the library is?
When I was in grammar school, I guess I got caught up in what would be considered like the Stargate program, the remote viewing program that they eventually wound up putting kids through. And recently there was testimony from one of the original remote viewing team members, a man by the name of David Morehouse. And he spoke on, I believe it was the Danny Jones
Yeah,
channel
Danny Jones.
show.
Yep. Yep.
And he expressed his understanding of how the point in time where the U.S. government made the decision to start researching on children as well, when they had discovered that foreign nations were already in that activity. He said that it was a very rapid, well, then if they're doing it, we got to do it.
And we got to do it bigger, and we got to do it better.
Yeah,
Because
so
we're the United States.
So that was the type of program that I found myself mixed up in the library at my grammar school. So it was very interesting. I was privy to a lot of stuff, I guess, early on that most people are going to just be learning about right now, apparently. And that's, that remote viewing works. Everybody has the ability to do it. And it's just more or less how much you practice at it will control your proficiency.
Mm-hmm. So this was just kind of reality for you then. I mean, as a kid, I know when I was in first grade, I wouldn't have been, if they were taking me out of class and bringing me to this place and doing tests and, whatever. I mean, that would just seem normal to me. And it makes sense that, and the reason I brought up where you grew up and the ties to Paperclip is because I don't think it's by chance that you end up in this program, right? I don't think it's by chance.
Oh yeah, I believe that there's some there's some aspect of my reality that I have yet to completely understand, ascertain. Not sure how to put it because I'm not there yet, but it's there sure seems to be some sort of guiding hand that gets me from opportunity to opportunity, or engagement to engagement, person to employment. There's just such a peculiar line that I've walked that it's just it seems to be way beyond coincidence.
Yeah, I literally wouldn't, I couldn't agree more. Just, watching multiple of your podcasts and interviews for the past week or so. I've just been, I'm under the same kind of guys. I feel like you have been, even with the South Pole, I think that was destination final.
Yeah,
final.
I mean, that's, even myself, I forget how like big of a deal it is to have wintered at the South Pole. That's not something.
Adentia Herbals Biomind. Introducing the ultimate cognitive enhancement solution, Biomind. Today's video is exclusively brought to you by our sponsor, Adentia Herbals. Unlock your brain's full potential with a powerful blend of 9 meticulously selected plants and mushrooms, each backed by peer-reviewed research for their cognitive boosting benefits and safety. Adentia Herbals formula combines organic full-spectrum powders and potent standardized extracts, ensuring that you receive the optimal concentration of each ingredient's cognitive enhancing compound, carefully selecting the most desirable parts of each plant and mushroom to create a harmonious blend that supports your mental clarity and focus. But that's not all. They infuse each bottle with personal intention of improving the lives, the minds, and overall greatness of each of their customers. Because of their commitment to your well-being every step of the way, you're going to get an exclusive 25% off your order via www.adentiaherbals.com using our code TOTALDISCLOSURE at checkout. All the links will be in the description or on the screen. I'll never be able to say that.
Yeah, and even what I do for work now is limited exposure to the cold, but for all practical purposes, I mean, it's not a skill set that you need to use often, but when you need to use it in like really bad environments, I guess I could say I'm really good at being out in extremely cold places and not dying.
Well, that's a good, yeah, that's a great thing. And like I said, if you can get
Yeah.
the job done in those kind of environments, I mean, we'll get there, but I mean, you're in a tent in the South Pole. People don't
For
know
the
that.
summer season.
Yeah, in
Yeah.
the summer, I mean, what?
Yeah, it
What?
was lunacy. It was absolute lunacy. It was so cold in those tents.
Like, I don't even understand how that's possible. Or
Mhm.
how that could be considered humane.
Yeah,
Like the
I was beside myself trying to figure that one out. A couple of storms blew in here and there, and it was wild how much the exterior was involved with the interior, and it was like how the hell can they be getting away with this?
right.
But it's Raytheon, and they're allowed to experiment on people.
Yeah, and they're right. You're in Antarctica. You're in the fucking South Pole.
Yeah, I mean the whole thing
What are you gonna
is an
do?
experiment in and of itself. Just the social dynamics, everything going on is worthy of study 6 ways from Sunday.
It's exactly like that. It's it's not only, like you said, to conduct this whatever mission, whatever end goal, or whatever the secret big mission is there, whatever it
Right.
connects to. There's also this other side where they're watching and
Right.
they're monitoring. How do these people react by spending a year in this desolate wasteland? Not wasteland, but because
Oh, it is a wasteland. Yeah.
but I'm sure it's beautiful in its own right. It's just after 7 months straight, I'm sure the scenery, you could give a shit less about it.
There is no scenery. There is nothing. It's flat. Like, don't
Wait,
get
is
me
it
wrong, the
literally
sky
just
is the
nothing?
beautiful part. There's nothing there. You're at 10,000 feet of elevation, and there's nothing there. There's not a mountain. There's not a tree. There's nothing.
Do you think Antarctica is misrepresented in the media and
Entirely. This is kind of the whole point of what I'm doing, is to bring truth to this topic, because it appears that every conversation that I'm observing in the disclosure community about Antarctica is unsubstantiated, speculative, sensationalized crap that has nothing to do with the verifiable considerations that should be getting discussed. It seems to be a full court press on trying to confuse the general population of the planet about what really is going on down there versus what could be going on down there. And they want to over speculate and under substantiate so that people don't discuss what's really going on.
right.
There's a disinformation game going on this topic. What other topic would you give any respect if there was a debate going on and one person was experienced in the topic and another one was just a researcher in the topic? I mean, why would you give any weight to the one that has no experience in the topic? But here we have one that in the disclosure community, we can observe that there's a whole bunch of people that have no experience in Antarctica, and they're controlling a conversation on a place that they've never been.
Yeah.
How is the general public tolerating this farce?
It's because they want to know what fucking Kim Kardashian's wearing to the Met Gala. They're too concerned with that.
They're all currently being spoon-fed, regurgitated information about the continent of Antarctica that's been around for decades. There's nothing new under the sun in the propaganda information. They just keep repackaging it and reintroducing it to the public as if it's new. Like as if it's new for anybody to say, hey, did you hear that way back when the Nazis might have snuck down to Antarctica with some submarines? Yeah, actually, people have been talking that a really long time now.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is not new
I
info.
don't. Yeah. Yeah.
But every 2 years now, we get a resurgence of things that are pseudo new all over again, which in and of itself is the control mechanism.
Okay. And okay, so there's a story that I didn't even know if I was going to bring it up, but I'm sure. Are you familiar with like the Admiral Bird stuff
Mm-hmm.
and the whole, like I literally mean the whole that went into another fucking place, another world. With your experience there, could such a thing exist?
Not at the South Pole proper, where everybody's trying to state that it is. And again, I get that a lot of people don't understand this topic. They weren't there. They're not familiar with terminology, stupid little details, but it matters. So what I'm getting at is I was actually at the South Pole proper, and from being there, seeing the lay of the land, I can say that the hole that people are suggesting birds saw and stated was at the South Pole was not actually at the geographic 90 degrees South Pole, if there is one.
Okay.
But everybody
Which
wants to
makes
fight
sense.
about that.
Okay.
With that being said, I would also suggest that if he did, in fact, see something, that if people would just simply do the research and follow that his logbook entries are referenceable to times, dates, and altitudes. From the time that he claims that he saw some sort of oases, some hole in the ice, at the elevation that he says that he was at, it sure seems like he's near the coast.
Okay.
Because if he was further inland on the highest continent on the planet, he'd be way above the ice line and things would just be different. So these are the details that people aren't paying attention to, that when he's calling elevations and saying, I see this and I see that, well, you have to consider the ice elevations versus sea level, and all kinds of things are different in Antarctica. So I would suggest that whenever he saw what he saw, according to what he was calling out for elevations, he was probably near the coast.
Interesting. That's very interesting. Because
which would make sense that there were spots where there were no ice.
Hence exactly. Okay. See, I'm actually glad I brought that up now, because like I said, if you were there and as your job duties would have it, you had unfettered access to the facility. So if they were guarding some giant hole, fucking to another world, sure you would have come across it.
Yeah, they called it the gravity tunnel.
Oh,
it was boarded up and secured for 99.9% of the time that I was there. But everything else I had full access to. But the gravity tunnel, oddly enough, was the most peculiar section in the facility.
And what does that mean, the gravity tunnel?
It was apparently some sort of sensor that was paying attention to the Earth's gravitational field.
Okay. And is that meaningful in any way?
We're just discussing rooms and access, and I'm just letting you know which technically was the most peculiarly secured room.
Okay. Understood. And so you start having you get flown down there, you start getting acclimated to this job that you got with Raytheon, right? So you're contracting with Raytheon, so you're working for Raytheon while you're down at the South Pole, and your main job duties include like maintenance technician or plumbing technician, and making sure that the place stayed operational, right?
Yep.
Okay. When is it that you start realizing something's not right?
I mean, I guess initially my understanding that Raytheon was in charge of the facility by contract did automatically put up red flags by itself.
Okay.
But then in so far as actual day-by-day tasking, when I knew that something was officially up, was when the ELF system became identified to me as being energized and active, as opposed to being de-energized and deactivated, as I was told up until that point. So when I learned the contrary, that the system was up and running, I knew that there was something afoot, so to say, in Sherlock Holmes terminology.
Mm, right. And so when did this actually, I'm not even going to go there yet. And you started so having access to the building, you were able to when certain things went wrong in certain places, you'd have to go there, and you'd end up in a room with, say, a scientist. And you said, you'd kind of like stroke their egos a little bit and allow them to open up to you. And you started having conversations with the scientists there, and
Yep.
learning what they were doing. What were they doing?
They were basically using really fancy equipment to look outwardly into the cosmos, and for all practical purposes, like counting stars and star systems, looking at density of suns. So a lot of it would be, I guess you would say, if you were to try to reduce it down to a common term, would be looking for signs of life. In a lot of the telescope work. Then there was also the ARROW facility, the Atmospheric Research Observatory, was doing a lot of stuff more locally in regards to the atmosphere specific to that location, being South Pole in the winter, very clean air.
Right. And yeah, I mean, I can only assume the visibility. The one thing that would be cool is the stars. And
That was off the wall,
yeah,
almost beyond the ability to put words to it. It was, I guess, the best way to try to describe it would be that it was the same as being in outer space, because at that elevation, all you really had to do was just lift your head up a few degrees, and then the whole world drops out of view. So at that point, with your head just slightly elevated, you can now rotate 360 degrees, and the entire planet is out of view.
wow.
So it's the same as being in space. Like, what's the difference between that and being at a space station looking out a window where there's nothing below you? It was
Right.
an
It gives you that.
absurdly gorgeous view.
Right. It gives you that. I forget what they call it. It happens to astronauts when they look back at Earth for the first time. It's like it gives you like there's a word for it.
It's something about being tiny too, because it did make you feel very tiny. Like I could, I could lay. Lots of times I would just lay back on a snowbank and just look up, and again, there's nothing blocking the view and the perspective. I mean, it's nuts. Like, you can almost imagine yourself as being like upside down and stuck to the earth and looking out over space. It's perspective is reality.
Yeah, one of the poles too, man. Like, it's just, I mean, in any other circumstance, being there for like 2 days would have been cool. Like, and getting to, but a year, obviously, they have time limits for a reason. And because people go a little insane in those kind of environments.
They call it getting toasty.
Yeah, exactly. So your term that you signed on for how long?
It was for 1 year.
So 1 year exactly?
Yeah, pretty much. It's
Okay.
I mean, it's a ballpark that's not really written in stone so much, because it really just has to do with weather and flights for when you start and finish. But it's a ballpark for that.
Okay.
vicinity
And
of
then,
time. It was for a summer season followed by a winter season.
all right. And then they rotate out.
Hmm.
And
Yep.
did you ever have the opportunity, or I guess, do they invite you back, or do you have to reapply?
You officially have to reapply, and
And I'm
I would just
assuming
say
you
that.
never did.
What's that?
Did you? I'm assuming you just never did,
No,
because
I had reapplied a couple of times,
oh wow,
and one time was actually by request for some folks in the program because there's some systemic problems in the United States Antarctic program that there is a period of time that they considered me as the most viable option to mitigate the problem, and they went with a different direction, and you know, there's
that's a very interesting. That's
yeah. I
interesting.
mean, so it is what it is.
I mean, because
I
you
would have
had done
done.
some work previously with your company. I know in 2008 you had a tough time after Obama's administration kind of, you know, screwed on that. But
Mhm.
you're doing some work for some really, let's just say, peculiar clients.
Yeah, fair enough.
So some of the people that you did work for, they were able to dictate what you drove, how you got there, when you got there, able to call you 24 hours a day. So this is I'm taking this from your testimony.
Yep.
I think you gave to Patrick Bet David,
Yep.
and so that experience, and again, uh, I kind of want to bring this up because do you think do you do you think there's a possibility that the CIA tried to groom you?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I think
Or insert three-letter agency here,
I
kind of.
I think somebody put time and effort and investment into making me some sort of a resource, and that like piece of equipment that's available to rent to the highest bidder.
Right. Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
that's how
some
they boil it
government
down.
program where they, they can build this if they do that, and then we have this thing over here on the shelf, and you too can use it for the low day rate of.
Yeah. Right. Okay. Now, yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay. So, uh, uh,
I mean, this is how our government tax dollars work, folks.
it's so bad.
It's literally just gets that simple.
It's so simple. It's bad. It's so bad. Like Tim Burchett said, he's a friend, and dadgummit, the when was the last time the Pentagon passed an answer? Zero. And I'm just like, yeah, you're right, sir.
Yeah. I
Absolutely
mean, and
right.
if you can think of any nefarious plot that you can think of right now, just think of how many years ago someone else could have thought of it. And as long as they never tried it before, they're just obliged to invest in it anyhow to see how it pans out. I mean, there's so much stuff that they invest in just because of that alone. Like they're like, well, we've never wasted money on that before.
Yeah.
So
Let's try that avenue.
we have to see what that means.
Yeah. And we do. And
Yeah.
um God, it makes me laugh because so I mean, some of these people that you did work for, it seems like you said that you, the South Pole ended up being the only option on the table for you, and
Mhm.
it seems that you were put there, and then you go through this kind of just really odd experience where you start connecting the dots. You're kind of experiencing some Havana Syndrome esque um, uh, symptoms. You and your crew throughout the whole experience. I can only and that isn't something to just scoff over. I mean, that stuff is brutal. Like, not being able to see, uh, skin burns, that kind of stuff, like disorientation, dizziness, tinnitus, all those things will drive you mad.
They
Imagine a
have a value.
constant ringing
They
in your
made
ear.
these weapons do this for a reason, and it's not because it's dysfunctional. It's because it's effective. There's a
Absolutely.
reason that they invested billions of dollars into this tech. It's because it works.
So my question is, what is this thing that is down there causing this? What is it? I mean, you've said it before, but what is it at its what do they want us to believe it is, and what is it really?
They want us to believe it's a passive listening device, but in reality, it is yet just another multifaceted directed energy weapons platform that can do a multitude of terrible things. And those are the conversations that we need to start engaging, and the vocabularies that we need to start building, because currently there's just a lack of understanding because this stuff is so new. We don't have the words for it yet. Therein lies a huge part of the problem, is that this is, I mean, it's literally that new. When I say directed energy weapons, I mean, most people don't even know what that means to begin with.
Right.
And that is it. I mean, just right there, that's a huge conversation to just now have to turn to people and go, all right, folks, here's everything that you need to know about the cons list. I mean, there's pros and cons to everything. There's pros to directed energy weapons systems being around, but there's also cons. So let's just dive into the cons list. I mean, this is a massive problem to digest. Uh-oh, they're calling you right now.
No, my phone just jumped off of the stand.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, literally jumped
That's not
off.
peculiar.
Not at all. Has nothing.
Right.
It's not,
According to like horror movie statistics, there's something behind you right now. Like,
yeah, the shadow.
you're supposed to have left already. That was the cue.
Yeah. Every time I've talked to someone who's a whistleblower, something weird happens.
There you go.
Something weird happens. So I'm sure I'm gonna have some weird dreams tonight, or something, or it literally happens every single time.
They'll hit you with the double laser beam tonight.
Yeah, the double laser.
Get a second dose.
Yeah, you and this is actually very serious. You think so? You've attributed this neutrino device to earthquakes that happened in 2011 in New Zealand.
Yep.
Now, how do we correlate these two events? Like how do we prove that?
I mean, how to say the question again?
How can you say that those are related, and what evidence is there to suggest that it was absolutely this that caused it? This is not a gotcha.
There is no evidence that absolutely suggests anything to anyone without direct firsthand experience.
Okay.
But I'm coming from someone, as having worked at the facility, having communicated with the crew that was operating the facility at the time that this occurred. I mean, what else do people need to know other than that? Like, I mean, do people want a video of the button being hit? Do they want, a drone shot view that follows the electro beam? If put it this way, if no one knew that a 747 plane existed, and I told you I went for a flight in one, and then everybody said, well, prove it. Well, does the lack of being able to prove how a plane works at that point negate the fact that you went for a flight in one?
Right.
So sometimes people are asking for more than simply just appreciating what they're being given.
Yeah, no, and I understand. There's a
You
reason
know,
I
it's
asked.
like it's like pointing to the staircase to someone and being like, you can know everything that you need to know is at the top of that staircase, and I'm guiding you to the first step.
Right.
But the only way for you to ever know the truth about what is at those stairs is you have to do the work and ascend them yourself, and there will be knowledge gained by each step taken.
Absolutely.
But the reality is there's nothing you can prove to anybody on these topics if they're not willing to do the work of elevating their knowledge step by step. It's just, this is how it works. There's a big misinformation and disinformation game going on right now. And the fact that they've made it so wildly complex is part of why most people are so misinformed, because they will simply just accept the information being distributed to them, which is wholly false. But it's easier to accept that information and incorporate it into your paradigm than to have to do the heavy lifting of going up the stairs of knowledge and becoming truly informed.
Right. I guess the reason I ask is because of that, and that very thing, and because from my experience, I can put my trust in somebody, in their word, in their direct word, and for me, and the reason I brought it up is because if anyone thinks that the U.S. government, in conjunction with Raytheon, is going to come out and give you documentation that says we accidentally fucked up one of our allies by turning this thing on, and doing God knows what, then you are out of your mind. You are out of your mind if you think the government's going to come out and be like, yeah, we really fucked this one up, guys. Here you go. Here's all the evidence you need. Hence why the JFK stuff's been classified and overclassified and will stay classified for the rest of time, and why the UAP phenomenon and stuff related to it, at least from the government, we're probably never going to get that presidential "we're not alone" unless it's forced literally by the NHI or, the others, whatever you want to call them.
Way more
but
likely to have a false flag event occur.
You know what? At this point,
Yeah.
like Werner von Braun's words, if his assistant, I forget her name, but she is part of Greer's team. She had said that the last card that they're going to play is the card, that one, right? It's the ultimate.
And almost every single day I wake up and I can't believe that card has not been played yet. It's like, oh,
it's the ultimate money
how
maker.
long are they going to draw this out for?
Yeah, it's the ultimate money maker, right, dude? Aliens from space. What else do you have to say?
Are you at all familiar with the 1980s TV series V? It pretty much covered this whole concept of a massive, highly technologically advanced alien species showing up to the Earth to assist us. But then it turns out you can peel their skin away and they're reptilians and they're eating us. I mean, this is the time. And it was, I mean, not for nothing, for an 80s TV series, it was really well done. I adored this show as a kid. But I mean, it was literally, they've been conditioning us towards this for a very long time. That's why I said I can't believe it hasn't happened yet.
I've been saying since the conception of this show, I've been saying we are all being groomed.
Totally.
We are all being groomed to a degree. Something is either coming or it's on the horizon.
Well, we're being traumatized in mass now. So, as just going full circle to the stuff that I was exposed to as a child and the programs that do exist that we find, unfortunately, the governments are invested in, is these situations where they learn that inducing trauma to the psyche
Generation.
gets very specific results. So when I was a kid, I was involved with programs where they were basically just doing research and development to see what can we do with, induced trauma to the psyche. And what they learned in those one-on-one situations was now how to bring it to the level of what we can see going on around us right now to our friends, family, and loved ones, our neighbors, is that they've now just made it in mass. They now figured out how to traumatize the entirety of humanity at once.
Oh my God.
That's all that's going on is these programs have been spread exponentially across the entire population.
Think about it.
That's what's going on.
Think about it. The highest rates of factionalism and people hating each other,
division, stress,
division, suicide of young girls, right under
by having all of this technology and engagement. It's metadata galore, so that predictions can be made and manipulations and dials turned to get the result that someone's looking for.
Right, it's a giant goddamn psyop. It's a giant.
I'll bet you can go to some marketing company and they'll run calculations on how much money would we have to invest to get 10% of this particular demographic to kill themselves by the end of next month. I mean, I understand the idea of freedom of speech being fought for on the internet, but I also appreciate the smoke and mirrors and the circus of the propagandized conversations in front of us. But let's go on to the topic of TikTok for a half a second. I'm all for freedom of speech and stuff like that. But when we have a foreign nation like China that has a technology as pervasive as TikTok into the minds of our children,
It's terrible.
is it naive for us to not consider that there may be some detrimental activity going on?
And why don't
Is
we
that just not responsible parenting?
Yeah, as a parent, why don't you look at what the Chinese TikTok is and what the American one is? Just compare the two. Compare what they are. They're fundamentally different. The one in China, like, it's educational. It's obviously it's backed by the Chinese Republican Party or Chinese, whatever they're called. I think I got it right.
Has anybody calculated how many deaths of American children were related to TikTok content?
It's probably up there in it's probably up there in the unpleasing amounts.
Right.
Because
we're always trying to ascribe things to other things and provide retro causality and be justice warriors for things nowadays, right? So
Yep.
let's just add this to the list of justice warriors for American children. How many American children have been killed as a result of some information or activity that they engaged with because of TikTok? I'd be curious to know that number.
Yeah, I really would be too. It's a conversation that most people don't want to have. They don't want to.
Would the Chinese government have some aspect of their long arm of secrecy that might protrude into an item that way and say, hey, is it possible that we can gain some result through this software to intrude into the minds of the American youth to insert some of our principles? I mean, would that be that far-fetched to think of, an enemy nation?
Yeah, no, and this is the same nation that will send a spy balloon right over your head.
Right.
Literally right over your head.
Right.
And then it ends up on TikTok
Mm-hmm.
by all the American influencers
I don't know if you recall the DARPA Red Balloon Challenge way back when. Did you ever hear this?
I did not. I would love to know about this.
So this was,
DARPA Red Balloon?
Yeah, this is referenceable. So DARPA did an experiment where they, I forget what the monetary amount was. I think it might have been like a $50,000 prize or $150,000 prize. And what DARPA was going to do was they were going to float up something like 8 huge, massive red balloons. And the first person to send in all the appropriate coordinates, this is going to be all over the planet, right? So now imagine here you are by your computer. So, you know, how much information can you gather to start learning where locations are? How fast is that information going to become guarded, coveted, and then secreted around? Think of all the types of internet traffic that would have to occur on this planet for people to gather all of the intel about the 8 locations, work together with these other cells. You know, the type of activity that was being caused by this challenge was the type of activity that DARPA just simply wanted to observe.
Wow. That's, Jesus.
So there's lots of things that happen in our society just simply because they're testing the waters.
Right.
And they can.
Right. It's one long experiment, I guess, if you will.
Lots of times.
Like, this country and just in general. I mean, I guess it started as an experiment too. Experiment
There's a lot to be said for that too. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. So it's really, really weird. It's just, you know, because I think we're taught at a young age to think that the world is very, very black and white. It's only when but it's funny though, because when we're young, we see the world not as black and white. It's only when we're taught by the other people that it is that we start losing our sense of because when you're a kid, you're innocent, you're naive to you know, the big picture. You don't see the little shit. You know, you know, you don't have that generational like, you know, if you grow up in a racist home, you're probably going to be racist, right? So like that kind of stuff, it hasn't set in yet. So it's that all that stuff is taught to you by you observing your parents and other people. And then it's like we get to a point and then we have to retrain ourselves to realize that the world is not black and white. There is so much gray and there's so much going on. There's technology we don't know about. There's probably a secret space program to some degree. Did you hear about this new guy, Luke Sands, who's coming out? Not Luke Sands, Jason Sands. He's giving testimony now. He just came out. He's rumored to also be one of the firsthand people that James Fox is featuring in his new movie, The Program. Did you hear about this?
I'm hearing more and more of them in the headlines, and it's really making me laugh
Well,
because it's like, oh, is it about that time again for them to roll out the next new big spectacular storied with zero substantiated claims? I mean, is it that time again already? Oh,
right.
Cool. I get to watch the whole crowd have their attention taken from one dangling carrot and placed to the next one. And I sit there going, oh, look how they believe it's time to eat another shit sandwich. That, I mean, I don't know. I'm not a betting man, but I'll bet $50 that this guy comes with no evidence. And we're supposed to believe him. And
yeah.
And he can't talk about this, but he can talk about that. So he's not really a whistleblower. He's just somebody who has reins on them and is being controlled like a little dog and pony show.
Right. As soon as he said the 20 and back program, my head keeled. I was like, God damn it. Because that's that Corey Good stuff. And we already know that Corey Good is about as trustworthy as I mean,
Oh, right, but that was the whole point
Yeah,
of the Corey Good psyop, was to take what was previously a worthy conversation and run it into the ground. I mean, it's
absolutely.
very unfortunate that people now have a knee-jerk reaction when they hear 20 and back. It's like, oh, Corey Good mentioned that. Well, that was the whole point of why they brought Corey Good in, was so that now people won't discuss a 20 and back.
Oh, maybe I am. Maybe we are just a victim of that.
Yeah, that's all that was. It's not that
Shit.
the topics were unapproachable or untrue. It's that
Right.
they were, so they needed to ruin it by putting an idiot like him up on a pedestal just to set him up for a large fall, to be a
They've done
detriment
it.
to the topic.
They've done it before. We know they've done it.
Oh, all day long. This is such a, like a CIA two-step. It's like,
Yeah. We
again,
know.
how do people not see this coming? You know?
Yeah, I guess because I listened to the testimony and I gave the pros and cons to what I thought. You know, I mean, the guy, he seems to believe himself, right? He seems to come off as confident, but there's also no evidence again, right? So no,
He's a standard con job.
yeah. So I mean, at this point, they're just words, and the whole community is. I mean, it's video after video after video after video, and that's got to stop. That's like, people are quick to call people grifters and this and that. No, the grifters are not the ones that you think they are. The grifters are the ones that literally play the algorithms on you, right? And of course, the grifters are the some of these people at the top of the UFO community, that try to. It's either their narrative or no narrative.
That's
One-
I mean, that's pretty much the whole community. I
Yeah,
mean, by different definitions, and the different narratives would be, we have click A over here, which is the such and
Dr.
such
Greer,
convention,
yeah.
and we do it at this time of year, and then there's the such and such team that has the such and such convention, and this stuff is already all clicked up. It's already dialed in. There's already factions of who's working with who, and if you want to talk to this person, then that means you have to agree with what this person says, or we're going to throw you off the tour unless you immediately acquiesce to our demands on how you apply your freedom of speech in our freedom of speech tour.
Yes.
It's
Yeah,
lunacy what's going on behind the scenes, and
Yeah.
people, would have even a harder time believing that all of these folks that present publicly as all being love and light and tolerance are some of the biggest lying scumbags you've ever met on the face of the earth. And that's just their public persona, because they know that it's lucrative as an industry to wear that mask publicly.
Yeah. And I've said it so many times exactly the way you just said it. It's the ones that preach this love, light, hippie, let's all be one galactic brotherhood, and we need to join our, like, it's okay. That's all well and good. It's a good message. But then
As
why
long
are
as your
you
information agrees with them 100%.
right? It's a good message. But then why are these same people? Anytime anyone comes out, they're the first to say that they're a CIA disinformation agent, or they're this or they're that. They're always just inserting vitriol, and causing this chaos amongst their large followings. And I hate to say it, but we know who some of them are.
I guess I've never seen them react that way. I always just thought they kept doubling down on the love and light card.
No. So I mean, that's the part, I guess, that I've always seen through in the community, is that it's this weird, like, we call it the UFO community, but it's not even close to a community. It's the same thing as the rest of the world. It's divvied up into, do you support Lou Elizondo? Do you support Dr. Greer? Do you support David Wilcox and
Yeah,
Ancient
it
Aliens?
would. I think it'd be more appropriate to refer to it as the UFO or disclosure opportunities,
That
and
is a
then
good.
people try to fight for like slices of the pie,
Yeah.
and they're just looking to all cut it up for profit. It appears that's what I'm observing, is that there seems to be few and far between people in the disclosure conversation for the express purpose of making sure that we, the people of this planet, are getting as much truth as possible.
Yeah.
I would like to align with more of those people. I would say that they're lacking in the conversations. And if I'm wrong, then that means everybody else out there can point me in the right direction of who these people are that are having these conversations, because I'm not seeing them. I'd like to promote them happening more.
I could not agree more. And it's so sad, because I think, this goes for a lot of things. This notion, I think it goes for religion. I think it goes for us in this community. It goes for a lot. We all need to step back and realize that we all have a piece of the puzzle, right? It's when we come together and really come together as one, that's when you become a force to be reckoned with, right? That's when information sharing works, right? Open source information, making, that's when you become this, you can advance. That's when you transcend this system that's been set up to divide. You transcend it all by just stepping away from it. And a lot of people, they can't put the phone down. They can't shut the computer. They can't turn off the camera. It all needs to be for profit right now, right this second, instant gratification, likes, whatever. And it sucks, because, like, I think, like, if we look at religious texts, right? Of course, not all of it's true. It's been curated, but we also see a lot of common themes in religious texts. So why aren't we looking more into those common themes, like and bloodlines, and why aren't we looking more into DNA? You've talked about it actually too, generational trauma. Does DNA does the DNA have the ability to store generational trauma and
And
instill
it
it?
does. We already know the answers to all of this. Science has shown that we basically, like right now, I am representing the collective knowledge base of the experiences of myself, my own firsthand experience, and the experiences of the 6 generations before me. This is all ascertainable now. We've done the work.
Like the
So
100-year.
we can do the effort. We can put forth that there are things that you can respond to in a way that can only be ascertained. They've done this with studies of animals and things where, they expose, and then next thing you know, they wait a couple of generations and they can get the appropriate response from a creature that has never even themselves directly been exposed to the threat, but it responds in the appropriate time and has the understanding. So generational education, we know to be built in for at least 6 generations.
Yeah.
This is how we work.
It kind of spans further than that too, to a degree, if you take it. So there was, I don't know the animal, so I'm paraphrasing, and take it with a grain of salt. It's something like this. There was like a group of chimps that learned to use a tool, and it was in this part of the world, right? Like it's one part of the world, not
It's the
connected.
100th monkey experiment.
Is that what that is?
That's what you're getting at with this, is that you can raise collective consciousness or understanding or education of things by a exposure amount to others. And yes, this is one of
Yes.
the quirks of science. Everybody's been screaming from the mountaintops for the last couple of years. You have to trust the science, right? Well, they're being very selective in the science that they trust because nobody wants to discuss these peculiar aspects of observable physics and science. And this is the 100th monkey experiment, where we see that things occur where you can have a population that, you know, all of a sudden you train a certain amount of the population in a task and the rest just seem to know it as if they had been exposed to it, but yet
Exactly.
they
Yeah.
had not. Yeah, I mean, this is, so where did that knowledge come from? It transcended space and time, apparently.
And that's exactly what I was getting at. Yeah. So you're
Yeah.
absolutely right. The 100 monkeys. Yeah.
Yeah, so there's some sort of collective consciousness that got enough exposure that now the collective just is distributed the pertinent information. Cool.
And is
Now we
that
know that can
instinct?
happen.
Is that what basic instinct is? Is that why a baby sea turtle knows to hightail it right for the water right when it comes out of the
Yeah,
shell?
I mean, yes, there's a certain amount of pre-programming that
Right.
has come from previous iterations of experience. So yes, we are part of that collective. In many ways, I mean, you can play with the numbers and words here a lot. What you could also say is you are more of your not experience than you are of even your own experience.
Huh.
So you, for the most part, reacting in a way that has nothing to do with the pertinence of the situation that you're in, but previous experiences, reactions, which would most likely be wholly inappropriate.
Huh. It's fucking weird.
Yeah, it gets really peculiar really fast when we
Yeah, it
start
does.
to have massively different considerations for how the reality about us actually functions. And it's way more complex than we've been told.
Or even could imagine.
Yeah,
at a
absolutely.
point.
Correct. Absolutely. That's an even more fair way of putting it, because that's more accurate, is that there has been a lot of applied intention and investment in limiting our imaginations.
Oh my God, yes. And it's sometimes it feels so obvious, like to me at least. And maybe it's just that, I'm one of these people who happens to just see through it now. I have that ability, like, there's nothing, but it's like, how does, and I think it's like you said earlier, how are you guys not putting this all together? How do you not see what I see?
Mhm.
Because from where I'm sitting, it all is connected. It all makes sense. It all, we're not, there's a bigger story starting to be told. And it's been an 80-year thing, right? So it's probably longer than that. But
Seems to be a recurring cycle.
But again, yes, happens in cycles. So is it something that is just natural with the growth of a society? Does every society or culture or planet go through these same processes? Is it, do you believe in reincarnation? Do you think that we are just ourselves and then we're gone? Or do we go to heaven? Or do we get circled back and recycled, like would the universe would suggest, like it does with everything else? I think scientifically, you could make the best case for reincarnation.
Yeah, I would be right there with you, and I would say that's why that information has also been hidden from us, and why we've also been taught to fear death as if it's the end all say all in
Right.
regards to our experience. So
The
being
church.
able to hang that over our heads and then bill you for life after death through your favorite religion of choice,
It's,
to offer you salvation through penance and fees was also just a business practice and intel gathering. I mean, welcome to the confessional booth. Tell the priest every horrible thing. Oh, now the priesthood knows everything going wrong in town. Is it possible that if you had the lowdown on everyone in town, that there might be some nefarious ways to do some fundraising?
yeah. Yeah.
I mean,
Absolutely.
this is
Yeah.
just, it's the nature of the beast. We have to look at human nature and the cycles of things. And, we're just getting to another one of those points in time where we learn what happens after an excessive period of time of the rich stepping on the throats of the poor with their mighty boot.
Right. And I think it's so funny to think about sometimes because it seems we've fallen so far. And I'm reminded of the Tower of Babel, right? Right. When you get there, God strikes you down and throws different languages at you, right? Now you can't communicate. Don't come this close again, or I will strike you down, right? And it seems just like I don't know. Are we being as a population held at checkmate?
Yeah,
Why don't we know our
if
own?
not, we're extremely close to it. I've not been trying to proselytize to people that we're in some good position. I do not come bearing great news. I have terrible news that requires people to get rapidly into a state of action to help mitigate this problem, or things will get way worse real quick.
Real fast.
So I mean, it is the proverbial yelling of fire in the fully occupied movie theater, that at this stage of the game you're either gonna get up and react to the alarm call, or you're gonna suffer accordingly.
Yeah.
And I get that a lot of people at this stage of the game are hitting me with prove this, prove that. You know what? There's a time and place for everything. And at the time that the place is burning and someone's just telling you to run for your life is not the time where you start saying, I'm going to need a link.
Where's where
Yeah,
can you how did the fire start, sir? Can you get me that?
are you
information first?
sure that we're all in trouble, or is it, I'm trying to do my best to warn people that there's a
That was a good
circumstance
analogy, dude.
that requires immediate action,
That was a good-
but people are extremely resistant to hearing such a thing nowadays. Like, how dare you tell me I have to do something? I mean, that is almost the biggest party foul on the planet now, is telling people you have to do something about something. I mean,
Yeah, they've coined it now. It's the they call it the trust me, bro.
Oh, okay.
That's what they call it, the trust me, bro testimony.
There you go.
You have to trust me, bro. That guy. So
Yeah.
like people like Matt Ford of the Good Trouble Show, like they've coined those kind of terms, like it's the trust me, bro attitude. It's like, all right, dude, sit in front of your teleprompter again. See you later.
Yeah.
Not was it Matt No, Matt Laszlo's he does great work. So the Ford kid from that show, he calls it that. It drives me insane. Because it's like, again, 99 these UFO sightings and cases, it's not like we're working off the best evidence in the world. No,
Right.
there's
Yeah.
this
I mean, that's the part that irks me is like, hey, if someone's going to turn to me and say,
If your whole thing
you're
was
going to
about
have
a
to prove what
UFO,
you're saying, well, I'm just going to demand reciprocity because I have the documentation, I have pictures, video experience, I can back up what I'm saying. So what I just basically suggest to everybody else is you need to start doing more than trusting the other BS artists in these conversations. Because
right?
that's where I'm coming from is I can actually support what I'm saying. And I
Yes.
don't understand how the general population is apparently currently accepting a trust me, bro circumstance for almost everything that they hold as an opinion.
Yeah.
Because they're regurgitating stuff from people that they like what that person says, but those people aren't providing anything.
No, they don't have an original idea.
Right. So
No.
we're getting trust me, bro, by proxy information.
Yeah, it's again, it's just been a giant it's a walking contradiction. Again, it's
Yeah, for the
sometimes
most part. This
it's
is again, this is the big problem with disclosure is that we have all these echo chambers of people passing around the most recent cool story. Did you hear about Whistleblower X? Yeah, he just showed up out of nowhere and has
literally,
absolutely nothing to back up his claims. But isn't that a
literally,
cool story? Imagine if what he said was true.
it's and the UFO community has gotten to a point where it is so well fed, if you will, that it is now, like you said, it's consistently looking to be gratified.
Yeah, I mean, we could probably just start paying attention. Like, what's the date that this new guy came out? When's going to be the date that the next night? I mean, can we just start following the frequency and stop? Let's just make it official and find out how many days go by before they feed us with a brand new "Have you heard about" guy?
That's actually a good idea.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously going on.
Came out
So
on
somebody
420, so
run the numbers on how often they feed us a new feeder fish in the UFO community.
yeah, he came out on 420, so
Yeah.
they knew everyone was fucking stoned out of their gills, and he went on to a Twitter Spaces that was not recorded. The only copies of it exist through various channels that have different clips of it. That they were like they were live and they heard it was happening, so then they tuned into it. You know what I mean? So no one has the full thing. No, so it
Thank
was,
God for that amazing coincidence that these random nobodies just happened to be there.
that's what I mean. And it was like
Yeah.
the next day I woke up and everyone's talking about Jason Sands this, Jason Sands that, and I'm like, well, who the fuck is Jason Sands? And then I'm
Right.
like, oh, he's
And where's the proof? I mean, right off the bat, I hear everybody talking about a person and a story. I've yet to hear any of the proof presented.
Yeah. Well, he releases what do they call it? DD 214.
Okay, but what does that prove? That he was in the military?
Yeah, that just says that I was in the Air Force for this amount of time.
Right. I mean, so what? Yeah, I mean, what are we talking about has legitimately been proven. Okay, so now we can prove that this person was in the Air Force between a certain periods of dates. Copy that.
Right.
What
Right.
does that prove?
Yeah, and the community keeps saying that, oh, he's been vetted by this guy, this guy, this guy. It's like, okay. You know what that means, right? Vetted just means that they backed they ran a background check and they made sure he is who he says he is, not that the claims that he says are true.
Right.
They're running that validity.
And to be big picture here, I mean, who do we put in these positions of authority to vet people? Because I'm currently going through the ringer of the Antarctica topic and running into knuckleheads like Linda Moulton Howe. And people have somehow put her in charge of vetting people that are discussing the topic of Antarctica. Boy, do I find that hilarious.
There's
We
no
have a
cattle
person who's never
mutilations
been to
down there.
Antarctica who is
There's
now
no
somehow
cattle.
an authority on the topic. That is quite a laugh. But this is how disclosure works.
Are you being facetious? Or are you being real?
I'm being dead serious. I had a conversation with her.
Oh my God.
Where she was attempting to vet me, and it got really ugly because she started basically like being condescending to me for being a plumber and not a physicist at the South Pole, and basically just started talking down to me like, well, what would you know? And I just found it hilarious because the long and short of it was, I would know a lot more than you would, a lady.
Yeah, right.
You
Right.
know, so it's like,
Right.
again, who's in charge of vetting who? How about I just come out and express to the community that they're being lied to by all these other figureheads and gatekeepers in regards to the topic of Antarctica, and it's easy for me to know that because I've been there.
Yeah.
And these other people have not. So I don't know. It's just that simple. They're lying to you. They're scumbags. They have no clue what's going on down there. And they appear to be all somehow loosely affiliated to some organization that's trying to control the conversation about Antarctica. And it seems to be working really well. It's quite a little network of lunatics they have on this topic.
Huh. You just gave me something I'm gonna have to look into a little bit further because last I checked, Linda Moulton is an expert in like the cattle mutilation stuff, but there's no cattle down there. So how would she be an expert?
She got parlayed into it as,
Yeah.
you know, there's some whistleblowers that they claim to have that claim that they wintered at McMurdo and all. I mean, this is all, again,
That's only
it
a
sucks
place
that
that's a
Linda
stop
Moulton
over
Howe
there,
has
right?
never been to Antarctica and would have no idea how, when someone reaches out to her, to conclude whether or not they were actually in the program. So they're getting bamboozled and played with at best, or they know that it's crap and they still disseminate it anyhow, which would be even worse. But regardless, as someone who's actually been there, again, it's very easy for me to see that they're getting crap info.
Yeah. I mean, these are the same people who throw award ceremonies for their buddies and give them lifetime achievement awards.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So, like, we have to remember, it's so fucking, it's just a shame, man.
Yeah.
It's like, oh my, and once you step back, it's so easy to see. And that's what I mean. I guess the moral of the conversation is when someone comes out and they have a story to tell you, and they have credibility to their name, they've given you no reason to doubt them before.
Mm-hmm.
Why can't you take their word?
I mean, there's got to be, we have to give some value to the testimony of the experiences of others. I mean, otherwise we're just, you know, completely jaded. But it's one thing to trust somebody. It's another thing to have discernment gained through life experience, to just have an understanding. It also helps to have actual evidence. I mean, all of these things add to growth in these information streams. So a lot of where I'm coming from right now is that I don't truly want to be against anyone, so to say. I believe that, like you said earlier, to some, like, you know, we all have a bit of information in regards to figuring out the big picture of the puzzle. So I'm not really trying to push anyone down as much as I am trying to push to the front of the conversation those people that are involved that do have proof, just because it's way more advantageous to the growth of the truth and the understanding of the people by just prioritizing that. I mean, it's just that simple. it will accomplish a lot more for all of us if we stop wasting our time trying to figure out the veracity of the statements of people that show up to the table admittedly with no proof.
Right.
I mean, it just seems to me like a waste of energy. Let's get more people to the table that do have proof, and now take that and run with it. What does this mean? What do we do as a people with this newfound truth? And how do we expend our energy more efficiently with this info and keep going that way? Just seems to me to be more honest in what humanity needs.
And you have testified to Arrow and the Senate select I'm sorry,
Intelligence Committee, the Senate Intelligence Committee.
Senate Intelligence Committee. So do you think that it helped move the ball forward at all? With Arrow's latest historical review, it just doesn't seem like it's an organization that's going to help disclosure at this point juncture. So, I mean, I don't know how your experience was with them when testifying, but you probably had a better audience with the Senate.
I think there is a lot going on behind the scenes. I think the conversations that I had with both of those factions did bear fruit, so to say.
Good.
That I think that a lot of things are happening under false pretenses. I think that Arrow was, by its construction and design, by its primary mission, I believe it was set up to fail. That the information in the capacity as designed for that group was going to get squished. But I believe that there were folks that had access to everything while that operation's running, and it had more to do with giving them unfettered access to everything going on. And I think through informing that observatory team, there was ground gained. And I would say the same thing for the folks over at the Senate Intelligence Committee. Was I think what they were really looking to confirm was that there are these technologies that are in operation, and that they need to realize that there is a lack of oversight, and control measures need to start being applied to bring these rogue factions back into, I guess you would say, operations that have oversight of the public that's funding them.
Yeah. I mean, we have a right to know. I mean,
absolutely.
We don't, and this is the thing about the government, dude. I don't care what black all the numbers. If you if there's a video of a UFO and you see beings, right? I want to see the video, but I don't care where it's taking. Like, if you need to black out some numbers so that our enemies, don't know our capabilities, that's fine. That's cool. I get it. You got to protect your sources, methods, and means, right? I get it, right? National security is a legitimate thing, but it doesn't mean that you need to overclassify everything, right?
Right.
Because that's where the problems are, is overclassification. And just absolutely no oversight. Nobody. When you answer to nobody.
Yeah, therein lies the problems that we're dealing with now. Is that we have these groups with wild technology, and they're just literally able to do whatever they want to do. There's a lot of room for error.
Like cause earthquakes in
Yeah.
parts of the world. just by
or
touching a
or
button.
flying away with thousands of children to put them on the black market just because you can. I mean, there was an event that just happened in Lahaina recently that certainly fits the bill for peculiar. One of the really peculiar things is how, you know, thousands of children are just simply missing.
Huh.
Not dead bodies in the fires, children that were released from school into an emergency situation. So the school released them, and now they're missing. Thousands of children. I mean, we really need to look around this planet and reassess what's going on and what could bad people actually be doing. I forget who said it because I bastardize quotes all the time, but somebody said back in the day, the only thing that it takes for evil to prevail is for good people to do nothing. I think it was Goth that said that, but
I know the quote. Yeah, you nailed it. Absolutely.
And that's what's going on right now, is that there's massive amounts of investment to make us believe that nothing bad is going on.
Right.
And then that's all it takes. It's just good people doing nothing, as it's just going on around us constantly.
Well, they think, they think put Ukraine flag in their bio on Twitter is doing something.
Which is pure lunacy, because it's like, oh, look at you nincompoop. You're supporting an activity that's just meant to help your government fleece you.
Literally, it's
one of the greatest money laundering operations ever put upon the American taxpayer.
Yeah, absolutely. And that goes, that's a whole show in itself.
Right.
But
because the Biden family's not up to no good.
Yeah, they got some stuff going on. Everyone's quick to call Trump's plights, but
yeah, right. Everybody's, and don't get me wrong, I grew up on Long Island, so I never really grew up with an affinity for the Don. I'm very familiar with who he is, but you're right. With that being said, I mean, if we're honestly to just go crime family compared to crime family.
Yeah, we're pretty matched, if you want to call it that, right? Like in corruption here. So again, yay! How are these the only two people that are going to end up being on legitimate contenders? Because RFK, if he runs as an independent, the only thing that he can do is I would say disrupt the campaign of one of the other. So, and there's, I don't know, I would love to see something like that be pulled off. It would kind of
at this stage of the game, how can we predict how this current iteration of the circus will end? What will be the grand finale now that we know that the whole thing is an amazing show? What it certainly is not is some semblance of a we the people for the people voting process that is untainted and noble.
No, I
mean, can you honestly tell me that you're completely confident that whomever you vote for will be untainted, unmolested, and go in as you expected? Are you 1,000% confident in that?
No, I'm absolutely not.
Yeah,
and I think there's a serious issue with our processes. Yeah,
I feel like the accomplishment of the political parties is that they get 100% of the population to be focused on 50% of the problem.
Yeah, It's a good way of
We
knowing
have
that.
all the Democrats saying that the Trump faction rigged the election. We have the Trump faction saying that the liberal Democrats rigged the election. Okay, cool. So if we stand back far enough, what we're hearing clearly is apparently the election was rigged by someone.
Yes. The common denominator is the
Yes.
election is rigged.
Correct, right? Let's forget the devil in the details of the things that divide us on whose side is manipulating the ballot box most, but let's stick to the things that are common to us and realize that the ballot box is no longer our friend.
Finally, right? It's like finally get to talk to someone who understands, right?
Mm-hmm.
Take a step back, guys. Take a step back. Look. It's so right there. It's just we are not, most of us are not seeing what we need to see. And the longer that we don't, the worse it's going to get. Like you said, the faster it's going to go, the faster it's going to get worse. In your honest assessment of what this device could do, is there more concern on your part for nuclear weapons or one of these?
No, I think you will never, ever, ever, ever have a nuclear conflict on this planet. I believe it is rolled out like a dog and pony show with great regularity to attempt to put the fear of God and nuclear conflict on the minds of people because there's value to playing that card every now and then. Again, there's probably frequency that we can pay attention to on this and show trend lines and be like, oh, they're 3 days over from here we go. It's a Kim Jong-un news barrage.
He just
they just made a missile that shoots a little bit further than the last time we pulled this story up.
You
know, but
this
I'll
one's
never figure out how to put a missile on a boat, so don't worry. It's always this missile, if fired from the epicenter of North Korea through the air, it could make it. It could almost make it to us. Okay, so if they took that same missile and put it on a boat, or 12 of them, or 50 of them, they could just line them up right off the coast of California, and there ain't jack shit we can do about it. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. And that, that's exactly what.
But
saying.
They don't ever want to discuss actual reality. They just want to bring everything right up to the edge that they could then bring you back from. So a lot of these threats are just they're pseudo threats to cause manipulations in stock prices to fluctuate.
And I think a lot of people see that there's something wrong with our media, right? Our mainstream media. I think I really do. I generally do think that most people do know that they are. It's not they're not getting the news anymore. They're getting their news. We talked about tailored content, tailored advertisements. It's with news too. People,
because now the programming is just it's doing the reverse. Instead of it looking for the information that you're interested in and working actively, it's just now they can just mold you. I mean, they have control over what information is put in front of you, and we certainly can observe that humans are very programmable.
Absolutely.
Well, now they just have access to the device that you choose.
What channel you
as if it's a choice now. Like, right, and what audible alarms it takes to get your attention. All of these things can be measured. His pulse rate went up on that one when he looked at the screen. So we'll send more of those. Those ones really get his attention.
Yeah, and then you end up with a catered. Like I said, you're getting your news, not the news. You're getting your news, so you're getting what they're putting in front of you, which
even worse. You're getting their news.
But
it's their news that they know you will find palatable because they've done the research. It's a shit sandwich that they can serve to you and guarantee that you will say, God damn, that was delicious.
Yeah. and you'll sit on the toilet reading that article. You'll
Yep.
you'll quote
Yep.
that article to your
It'll be
friend.
the worst poison that you've ever ingested, and you won't even know it. You'll love it, and you'll tell your friends how great it was.
And recommend it. Maybe you'll
Yep.
share it.
You need to
Declare it.
try this shit. It was terrible. But boy, let me tell you how you need it.
My man, Eric. Dude, you are so down to earth. It's really comforting to talk to someone like that you think is no, not that you think that, or that you come off as
I've been told I don't think like other people.
yeah, you're unique. You're very unique. You're very fun to talk to. You're very down to earth. I've had a blast. And I definitely would love to have you back on season 2. So
Sure. This is a great chat. I enjoyed it.
yeah, man, dude, you're awesome. And listen, I think there's validity to a lot of what you're saying. Most of what you're saying. I think you clearly were put on a path. I think that it's safe to say that you've been dealing, or you may have been a pawn in a game that you didn't know existed. And it's not your fault, right?
It happens.
It happens. It happens to people. And half the people in this world are probably in the same boat and don't even know it.
The vast majority of people on this planet are not operating of their own free will and accord every day. They're doing something that they're obliged to do for someone else, which is no way for us all to be living, but is certainly the social structure that's been constructed around us that, again, is stuff that we should be debating and you know, going on about and figuring out, is this the best way to live?
Right.
Is this what our children deserve? Is this the planet that we want to leave behind? Is this better than when we found it, or worse?
Wow. What a perfect what a perfect ending. I literally couldn't have said that better. Dude, you keep telling your story.
I plan on it. Yeah.
Yeah, keep to your guns. Don't fall off. Don't let the armchair experts drive you away, because you're doing a service. And I truly think that that there will be names in the history books. I'm not sure who's yet, but out of this process, there will be names that are cemented in history. And with a story like yours, it could be you. And I think what you're doing is very commendable. And I think we need more people like you. And I think we need more people from that station to wake up and come corroborate you.
Yeah, that would be advantageous.
Yeah. But you know, where can people find you? Where, you know, your social, I don't know if you have a Twitter, but where can people follow your work and what you're doing, and everything that is going on?
Currently, the best way to get a hold of my efforts on the internet are at deciphering.tv. Right there, the gentleman just put it up on the screen. Thank you, sir. Yeah, deciphering.tv is my website, and that's basically what I do to try to get the truth out to the world without censorship. I mean, some platforms are better than others, but there's no platform like mine. I know I'm not censoring myself, so people can just go there, and that's basically where I try to collect everything. Like this video today, I'll try to get a link up and have access from the website so that everything can just be found in one spot. I'm trying to do my best to speak to as many people as possible and get the dots connected for folks, but I'm learning that it's very challenging for people to get their truth out in the format that's being presented to the world. So I'm just throwing my hat in the ring with deciphering.tv, and I'm going to do my best to try to help folks get the truth out to the community.
Well, much respect here, and you're always welcome. back into to tell anything, any updates. We'd love to be involved.
Awesome.
And we wish you an amazing ride. And I think again, you keep your head to the if you right what you said earlier, you're good at working in hasty climates.
Harsh
Well,
climates. Yeah.
Harsh climates. Just consider it another harsh climate.
Yeah,
Just
absolutely.
another
Yeah, the disclosure community is a very harsh climate.
Yeah.
So I will weather the storm.
My man. Eric Heckler, former Navy and RAYTHEON contractor and whistleblower who, has blown the whistle on some advanced technology at the South Pole Station, which the military-industrial complex has been keeping out of the eye of the public through means like special access programs, unacknowledged especially. These black programs where your tax dollar, you are literally paying for the secrecy to be enacted upon you. So, if anything, I hope this conversation at least allows you to wake up to that fact. So, just be known, or just let it be known that you are allowing this to be done to you. So, just keep your eyes open. All right, guys, you know what it is. Leave a like, subscribe, and leave a rating or review if you listen on Apple or Spotify. Really helps the show with the algorithms and this whole interwebs thing. And we will see you next time.